Hello, and welcome to the Redefine the Hustle podcast. I'm your host, Suze, a growth mindset and productivity coach for music industry professionals who are ready to get more structure in their day so they can begin working smarter to achieve their goals with less burnout and overwhelm. Now, if you're new to this podcast, we discuss all things related to hustle and the mindset behind it. Now, my goal here is to shine a light on new perspectives when it comes to how we hustle, because the current picture of sleep when you're dead and suffer for your art lifestyles just don't work for me, and it's likely not working for you either. There's another way that's not only healthier but more sustainable, and I hope you find inspiration from this show to begin making changes in your own hustle. Today's guest is not only inspiring but incredibly transparent about his hustle, and you're about to learn a lot about growing a successful career in the music industry and beyond. So grab some pen and paper for this one. Before we dig in, this week's episode is brought to you by the CD Baby DIY Musician Conference. Now this year, they're not only hosting it live in Austin, Texas, they're also offering a remote streaming option for those who are unable to travel or don't feel comfortable quite yet being at larger events. It's going down this August 26th to 28th, and I am so excited to be debuting my brand new workshop, Good Grief: Overcoming Loss and Embracing Change as a Post-Pandemic Artist. We're going to dive deep into the different losses that we've all been experiencing as a community and as individuals, and get clear on how to not only move forward with that loss, but how to embrace it and grow from it. You can grab your tickets now while they still last. Now, I do have an affiliate link in the show notes below this video, which means any purchase through my link does provide me with a small fee at no additional charge to you. You can click the link below or go to bit.ly/CDBabySuz. That's CDBABYSUZ. I hope to see you there virtually or in person. Now let's get to the man of the hour, Damien Ritter. Dame is the president of BeatStars and the founder of Music Entrepreneurs Club, which you're going to learn all about in our discussion today. And soon you'll be bookmarking it as one of your go-to industry resources if you haven't already. He is also the former co-founder of Funk Volume, an LA-based record label that was cited as a leader among independent rap labels with over 600 million YouTube views, 3 consecutive XXL magazine freshmen, consistent top 10 chart placements on Billboard and iTunes, and high-profile write-ups in media outlets such as Forbes, Billboard, Spin, LA Weekly. You get the picture. It was a really successful company. Now, prior to his music industry success, he spent over 5 years in the consulting and financial services industries and earned his MBA from Stanford University, along with a BS in business admin from UC Berkeley. Now, after being a quiet Instagram stalker, I had the honor of being a guest during one of his amazing Music Entrepreneurs Club live sessions. And while I was a guest, I immediately gravitated towards his transparent nature and this tell-it-like-it-is approach to teaching artists who really want to learn what it's truly like to grow a business in this industry. With everything he manages day to day, and you're going to learn it's quite a lot, Dame discusses how he still makes time for his fiancée, now wife, since we recorded this episode, and how he sets himself up for success through organized systems and delegation. I am so excited to finally get to share this interview with you, so enjoy. Well, Dame, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Well, after reading your bio, no one would deny that you've got hustle. That is definitely for sure. You've built some incredible businesses and you've gotten amazing press. You're a respected expert and sought after consultant in the industry. But how do you define your hustle, and where do you see people getting their hustle wrong?
I mean, to me, it's just about persistence. Like, I still feel like I'm trying to find my way, and there's always new stuff to do. Like, I'm transitioning from music. Like, I'm still going to do stuff in music, but now I work with comedians and we're trying to get into television and film. So it's almost like deja vu from 2008 when I left the corporate world trying to get into music and just trying to figure things out. What's most important? How do we build the right relationships in this business? And now it's still entertainment, but it's a totally different world with television and film and working with comedians. So I feel like I have done some things, but I don't feel like I'm where we need to be. I always say this thing, build on small wins,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
even your big wins become small wins in hindsight. They might be big at the time, but as you're progressing, when you look back, it should be small relative to what you're currently doing. I always say, yeah, you want to celebrate the moments that you do have, the wins that you do have, but you always should look at how to build on those wins to get to the next bigger win, right? Because the best time to build is in the middle of a win most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, right? The best time to get a new job is when you already have a job. That's when people want you the most,
Right.
So if you got a hot album or a hot show or whatever it is that's doing well, that's when most people are going to have interest in working with you and build or start projects to get to the next win. So yeah, I that's just the way I approach things. I don't really feel like I've done anything yet. I feel like my best is yet to come. So that's what I'm always trying to get to.
I love that. I mean, it's really all about perspective and really just not resting on your laurels. And I love how you said, your big wins become your small wins. That's such an
Right.
interesting reframe to have. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cause I think when a lot of artists start out, what they wanted to, or at least at the time, a lot of people wanted to be on World Star, or a lot of people wanted blogs to pick them up, and then eventually you get to a point where maybe you have like TV opportunities, and the blog stuff was great at the time, but it's like, okay, that's kind of normal now.
Mhm.
What are the next wins to secure, to keep my momentum going, to keep telling my story, and to keep evolving as an artist or a label or whatever you have going on.
Absolutely. And when artists or now comedians and those aspiring in the film and television world, when they come to you, what what is one of the biggest struggles that you see that you're like, okay, this is really what you're getting wrong? What are some of the most common mistakes that you see them making in their own hustle?
I just think the consistency that's required these days, because you're required as a content creator, whether you do music or whether you do jokes or sketches, whatever it is, it just takes a lot when you have to be consistently present, and you're competing with so much other content. And I know that that can get frustrating or discouraging when you're posting stuff and it's not getting the response you want or not getting the attention you think it deserves. But you have to be consistent and battle through that, keep getting better at your craft. And I just think just that grind, and not getting the feedback that you want, or not getting the views and the metrics that you want, I think that can be very discouraging, and stops people from being consistent. Because I think at a
Mm-hmm.
point they're like, well, what am I doing this for? I'm only getting 10 views or 100 views or whatever. I think even when you do get on, I think that there's consistency issues. I know a lot of artists that do well but feel like they've plateaued, and now they're trying to figure out, how do I get to the next level? How do I change what I'm doing? But it still is a level of consistency, because you want to stay in that stream of content you're competing with. I think another thing that artists fail at is just having a compelling story,
Mm,
something that differentiates themselves. Not, I mean, everybody feels like they make different music, but are you interesting? What's the story that you're trying to tell? And not that you need to have some crazy background, some crazy story, but sometimes it's just how you tell that story, how you relate to people, because a lot of people are going through the same thing. But it's just, what characteristics or what part of your story are you tapping into that other people can relate to?
mm,
So I think that's a big piece, because especially in hip hop and rappers, a lot of people can rap. There's a
mm-hmm.
lot of people that can rap, but there's some people that just have a more compelling story, or just more likable, or just have a little more charisma, or just make better visuals and connect and engage with people better. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the music, but they might like the music just because they like them as a person.
Right.
um so I think that the story piece is crucial, and I think that's another thing that a lot of artists struggle with.
I agree. I feel that they focus on the music, which obviously is important, or they might focus on their show as a comedian or the pilot that they're writing or anything like that. But you gotta want people to want to listen first and tune in. And before that happens, they're gonna say, well, who is this person? Why should they get my time?
Right.
And yeah, I think that I couldn't agree more. It's that connection and relatability before they hit play that a lot of people miss, for sure.
Yeah. And then I mean there's a lot of mistakes that
Oh,
artists make. Another one I could go on for days. Another
yeah,
one is they're not
sure.
learning the business,
Right,
right? They're not learning the
right.
business. Because this music industry can be very scary if you go by the stereotypes
Right.
of like everybody trying to take advantage of you, presenting you terrible contracts. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's not, it shouldn't be scary if you've equipped yourself with the knowledge,
Yes.
right? Like if you understand things, then nobody really can take advantage of you because you know how to navigate the industry because you know what your expectations should be,
Mhm.
and hopefully you've surrounded yourselves with people that are equally as intelligent, to further protect yourself from anything happening. So I think that a lot of people don't equip themselves with the knowledge and they don't build the proper team to protect themselves from any of the scariness, because what I see a lot is that because they're not educated, they navigate it with just like a ton of paranoia and they have their
Mm.
guard up at every turn. And because they have their guard up at every turn, maybe they're not building the right team, or maybe they passed on an opportunity that they should have taken advantage of because they thought it was a bad opportunity or a bad deal. So, not having proper education, not surrounding yourself with people that should be on your team is another huge mistake that I've seen time and time again. So we can go on to the next question. I could go on. Just a million mistakes that I see artists make, but I think
No,
those
I
are
I
those,
love
those are
those.
some crucial ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And it leads into my next question, because one of the things I love that you said is consistency, 100%, and knowing the music industry. And I tip my hat to you in terms of how consistent you have been in sharing your knowledge about the industry. And you've got your weekly live Music Entrepreneur Club sessions. They are incredible. I was honored to be on
Thank you.
as a featured guest. So I
They're
really
they're they're only as incredible as our guests. So,
well,
if you've
thank
been a
you.
guest, you've contributed to the amazingness of the sessions. But I think we do. I mean, I think we
Yeah,
just bring on people that have real experience,
right.
and just trying to give, because there's a lot of bad information out there.
For
There
sure.
is.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
but I don't think artists have an excuse these days because there are a lot of credible platforms
Right.
now too.
Right.
So, you know,
I
yeah.
agree, and I think what I love about your sessions is that there is this layer of authenticity that you don't get from a lot of other platforms, and the audience is so engaged, and the audience knows. Like, I remember when I was on there, they thought I was going somewhere else with an answer, and they were trying to call me out in the chat, and I was like, "Whoa, wait, let me finish." But I'm glad that they were like ready to call me out. They're like, "Well, wait a minute, and then I explained myself, and they were like, "Oh, okay, cool." But I love the engagement from the audience. They're so tuned in and they're so ready to learn, because you
Hmm.
guys have provided really authentic and legit people, as you had said, people that are really willing to teach and to share info that is credible.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think you guys have really built an amazing community. And so
Thank you.
I was hoping you could tell our audience how they can make sure they don't miss an episode, because I know you've got a great system set up, so that they can get notified, because these are jam packed with knowledge about the industry. And how can they make sure they don't miss it?
Yeah, we make it super simple. We send out a text every time we go live for our Monday and Thursday sessions. All they need to do in order to get that text is text MEC to 844-206-7800. That's MEC to 844-206-7800. We make it super simple. But we're also consistent. So we're
Right.
Monday and Thursday. So you should just put it in your calendar. I'm always telling artists, like, make use of the calendar. Like, I
Right.
put everything in my calendar. I
Oh
tell
yeah.
people all the time, put everything in my calendar so that I don't miss things, so I don't show up late.
Mhm.
Sure, some things still happen here and there, but especially as you start to get more traction in this industry, you're gonna have a lot of things tugging at your time, and you want to help your manager out as much as possible because he or she also has a billion things going.
Right.
So please use your calendar. It could help you out a ton. It could help your team out a ton. It's a basic thing. And just get in the habit of, if something new's coming up, just put it in the calendar. Whether it's Laker games or when I gotta take out the trash, like I put everything
Oh yeah.
in the calendar. So I'm not trying to get in trouble with my fiance for not taking out the trash. I'm not, so there's just too much stuff going on to not have a reminder,
Oh yeah.
go off.
Yeah.
So
I'm with
yeah.
you. Everything goes in my calendar because I have learned even after teaching time management, I'll forget to put one thing in and my calendar looks available. Someone books a call and I'm like, oh, yeah, about
Mm-hmm.
that. Totally
Yeah.
forgot to block
Yeah.
off that time. So yeah, I live and die by my calendar these days, 100%. Um,
Yep.
so that number to text and the message MEC will be in our show notes in case anybody forgets it. But as he said, guys, Monday and Thursdays, like calendar, guys, use the calendar.
Yep. 12 p.m. Pacific, and it's on the BeatStars Twitch channel. It's actually on all BeatStars platforms because we use StreamYard. We primarily push them to Twitch, but it's on their YouTube, it's on their Facebook, it's on Periscope. I didn't even know people
Yeah.
use Periscope, but it goes to wherever that goes. So yeah, sessions have been cool. We got some more great guests lined up, and then we have a new MEC member, Aaron Knight. We just brought her on because I thought we just needed a fresh new voice. And to be honest, like I'm not stepping away,
Yeah.
but you get to a point where you're just saying the same thing over and
Mm-hmm.
over. And I've been doing this for a minute. Even before the MEC existed, when I had a record label called Funk Volume,
Yep.
we would host virtual conferences. I think we did
Mm-hmm.
two. One or two. I think we did two. Because as I was learning the business, we were just trying to share. So
Right.
this goes all the way back to, I think we did our first one in 2012 maybe, because
Wow.
we were just trying to inspire other independent artists because we were doing it all independently from the ground up. So I've been sharing information in the music industry for a very long time at this point, probably coming up on 10 years.
Yeah. Time to pass the torch to the rest of your team. And
Yeah, just be more of like I've been through some pretty terrible experiences in this industry, and it's kind of jaded me. I'll just be honest.
mm-hmm.
And I just don't anticipate having that. I'll probably always do something within music, but I definitely love that there's a younger crop of talented young people that want to continue to support independent artists. And I'd rather identify those people, spotlight those people, and amplify their messages so that they can continue to support the independent community. Because a lot of times I'll just have a negative take on something just based on things that I've gone through, and I realize that. So I need the younger people to have more energy than me,
Right.
and still have a passion,
Right.
kind of step in that light.
Well, and as you said before, going back to how you defined your hustle, it is consistency, but it's also growth. And so if you're
Mm,
always consistently doing the same thing, then you're missing the growth aspect of it. And so I love how you have really built a foundation and watched it grow and now passing the torch on so that you can maneuver into where your skills and your strengths are best served, your experience and tenure
hmm
in this industry. And as you said, you're also growing into other facets of the entertainment world. And
hmm
that needs your time and consistent attention. So
For sure,
there's
for
only so
sure.
much time to go around. And so when you choose the people that you feature on the channel and on the podcast, how do I think back to, I think it was Dale Carnegie's, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. What do you look for in a guest or in a fellow teacher in the Music Entrepreneur Club? Like what do you value in what somebody brings to the table?
So it started out with just kind of my network, like being in the music industry for quite some time. I've developed a pretty decent network of people that are willing to share information, good people that have great experience that have been willing to share information. But now, the industry is always evolving. So I'm typically trying to get people that are on the edge of that. right? So we've had people to talk about blockchain, NFTs. I want people to know about the new developments in the industry first, so they can be a first mover, whether it's a new tool or new social media platform. So anybody that's like forward thinking is who I'm looking to have on. And then, one of the skills that you develop as you've been in the music industry for so long, it's like once you have a conversation with somebody, you can tell that they get the independent experience. So I want to get people that understand the independent experience so that these artists can have the best shot at building their businesses. So when I spoke with Erin Knight, so Erin Knight, she's the newest member of the MEC, and she hosts the first Monday session of every month now. So I'm trying to get her to take 2 of my sessions, but right now she's got one. But I actually reached out to her to have her artist on the MEC. And through that process and my conversations with her, I could just tell that she gets it. You just when you're in this industry for a minute and you have conversations with people, you can tell when people just get it. And that was the case with her. So I then circled back to have her on the MEC to talk about her experience, and that went really well. And that's when I circled back with her and said, "Hey, would you want to help us, push this thing forward?" And she was super on board with it. So that's how we picked up her as an actual MEC member now. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about having a goal in mind, knowing that you've got this growth happening and that you want to be using your time elsewhere, that your ears and eyes were open. You pick up on, oh, there's an opportunity there. The antenna goes off like there's something there. There's a solution there. There's a collaboration there. And I know that's something I value after being in the industry a while. I find the solutions a bit faster and a bit more creatively than I used to because my
Yeah.
eyes and ears are open to it now. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And then I also feel like I've never just been one to, and this is not to down anybody that just does music business education, but I also feel like I need to have skin in the game
Right.
in order to kind of validate
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying to young people. I can't just be speaking from another place. So even though I still do some. Actually, I just did a project called 1 Week Notice where I flew 6 artists out, put them in a house, record a project in a week. So that was a music project, but I work with content creators, comedians. So there, it's a lot of it is very similar.
Right.
So I like to spend most of my time kind of doing what we're talking about at the
Right.
MEC, and I think it gives it more credibility and allows me to keep up with like all of the changes that are happening.
Right.
Because pursuing music today is different than pursuing music even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. My
Oh,
label
yeah.
crashed and burned 5, 6 years ago, so
Yeah.
it's definitely a totally different landscape
Yeah.
than it was then. So I just want to keep up with things.
100%. Oh, yeah. I think back to my first businesses and I was like, wow, our approaches would not work in this
Right.
landscape anymore. So, yeah, I completely agree about, taking that time to be in the industry that you're teaching. And I respect that so much. And, to that point, you run MEC with DJ Payne One. I have found watching you guys that when you have, and I speak from experience a little bit too, having a former business partner, you both have your hustle, right? Like you both obviously are hungry for it. You guys put in the work, you're consistent, you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when hustles are at odds with one another, it can lead to a lot of headaches. I know you've had former business partners as well, and headaches can be the least of the
Right.
problems. So, how did you and DJ Payne One come together? And do you feel you have a similar hustle? Like, are your visions the same? How has collaborating with him been in that sense?
We definitely both have a passion for education, music business
Mm-hmm.
education. And we keep the MEC pretty simple. Like I never thought that the MEC would be this huge money maker. It was really just a passion project, and we shared that same passion. At this point, because it used to be membership based, where people would pay a
Mm-hmm.
membership and get access to our sessions, and then BeatStars came in and
Right.
and sponsored
That
it,
was
and
great.
it allowed it to open it up for free to everybody.
Yeah.
um which was a blessing because I think the membership based stuff is great. But when you have a membership base, you're always kind of looking at the numbers and like, oh, who did we lose this month? How many
Right.
did we gain this month?
Right.
And it just kind of took that stress off our shoulders and allowed us to just focus on the sessions and keep them going. But Payne and I are definitely different. You know, he's a producer. You know, that's a totally different grind. I still manage comedians and do other projects,
Mm-hmm.
being a consultant on different projects and for companies. So the grind is different, but you know, but Payne does his thing as a producer. He's always creating. He's always, you know, he sells a lot of beats. So yeah, but I think the MEC has been able to exist for as long as it's had because it's not, you know, me and him are pretty laid back about it. You know, in turn on the business side,
Mm-hmm.
we're not expecting this to pay all our bills. You know, but I have been in situations where the hustle does change, or in my former label situation, it was like me feeling like he developed a lack of hustle.
Right.
So, you know, because sometimes you start businesses with people and you have the same hustle,
Right.
and then sometimes people aren't keeping up their end of the bargain, or you feel like they're not keeping up their end of the bargain, and that can definitely cause some conflicts, especially if, you know, let's just say you split the business 50-50,
Right.
and then, you know, you feel like somebody's not pulling their weight anymore, but they still want the 50 of
Right.
the financial
Right.
side. You know, that could definitely
Right.
cause some issues. So, you know, you want, if you're working with somebody, you want to be on the same page.
Yeah.
So the communication has to be on point, expectations have to be set and
Mm.
met, you know, and that's tough to do. That's
Yeah.
tough to do, especially as the business changes, more money comes in or more money goes out. Like the communication has to be on point at all times.
Yeah, and as you said, that can be difficult to do when you're starting something. You don't know where it's going to lead. As you said, you never expected MEC to grow into what it was, and so it's hard to set expectations when it's this malleable idea. But as you said, having the same values and work ethic in that
Mhm.
way is really important. And getting back to your own work ethic, you know, you've got the live sessions, the podcast, the consulting, foundation media, you're managing these comedians and other entertainment professionals. Do you feel that there's a thread that holds it all together? Like, what would you say is the main motivation behind it all? Or do you feel them as separate entities and things in your life?
To be honest with you, and this is why I've I've actually been looking into potential positions at companies, because as much as I preach structure to artists, you know, sometimes I feel like I lose mine sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, because there's too much stuff going on.
Right.
And if I'm being completely transparent, like I feel like some of my day is consumed with things that I shouldn't be doing
Mm,
at this point, right? Like I
right.
could easily take a position at, let's just say, at Amazon Music or Spotify or something like that, and then just hire somebody to do the things that I don't feel like I should be doing. Like I shouldn't be on social media as much. I shouldn't be, you know, there's things that
Yeah.
I could hire some younger, you know, passionate folks to do.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at and what I've been thinking about. But I am super excited to crack the television and film code, because I think that my guys are right. They're right there. You know,
Mm,
they've developed a pretty big audience. There's some interest. We've been talking to some platforms. We have a monthly comedy show that happens now, and I think within the next year, we should be getting some bigger opportunities that lift their profile beyond social media. Big Jaw has done quite a few stuff. Like, you know,
mhm.
he's appeared in things on Netflix but he's yet to have his own show, or, you know, is a consistent role. And I think that's just right around the corner based on some of the conversations we've been having recently. So I'm hoping that that really takes off and I'm able to stop some of the other smaller projects that I have on my plate.
I know our audience is really valuing your transparency because I think that's so important in terms of who I try to have discussions with. You know, so many people like to keep it all behind closed doors and not let
Mm,
out the secret sauce. And what I've always appreciated about you and following you for a while on Instagram is your transparency. And you know, this is the life. Here's how it is. You're going to reach a pivotal moment and say, do I need to still be doing this? What is next? And as you said, those big wins now become small wins, and they're great, and now it's time for the next chapter. And that's what I've always loved about how you share your story and how you share your lessons.
Thank you. I try to be, sometimes I feel like I'm too transparent because I tell artists this is not an easy,
Right.
music. It looks fun, it looks
Right.
glamorous, but it's not an easy career choice. I mean, it's
Mm-mm.
already, for a select few. There's going to be very small percentage of artists that actually make a career in music, but especially if you're an independent artist, I'm always championing the independent artists, but I also want to tell them, you know, you're essentially starting 5 businesses in one,
Right.
right? When you're talking about doing music, merchandise,
Mm-hmm.
touring, managing yourself, publishing. So, and if you don't want to sign to a label, that's great, and I applaud that. But at the same time, you're gonna have to build out the team
Right.
that can run these 5 businesses
Right.
as efficiently as a label might be able to.
Right.
Right. So if you want to reap the rewards of being independent, you have to learn the business and put the people in place, so you have a foundation that can support your growth. And that's not an easy thing. That's not an easy thing to do.
And it's not an overnight
Um,
thing to do.
Not at all.
Right.
Definitely not. Definitely not overnight. So yeah, I feel like I have to be transparent because
Yeah.
I don't want to make it seem like this my experience is something that it's not.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough to start a label from the ground up,
Yeah.
and scratch and claw and get to a place where the artists were successful. But at the same time, it is doable. It's
Right.
doable. It's just tough.
Yeah. That's what I love. It's that delicate balance of transparency with inspiration. It's like it's not all doom and gloom, but we're not
Right.
going to sit here being, toxic positivity, being like, oh my God, just follow your dream and just want it.
Yeah, no, I
And
don't. Nah, none of that. No, none of that. But
right.
if you learn the business, you
Right.
can leapfrog 60% of the competition.
Right.
So
Right.
there's some positivity there.
Right.
'Cause there's not that
Absolutely.
many people that are taking
Right.
the time to really figure it out.
Right.
Really understand the business so they can work smarter.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. And as we wrap this up, I mean, I think there's been so many wonderful, key moments here about what your hustle is and how you got here and, what things to look out for. What would you say, if you can share with us, was a redefining moment in your life or career that you're sitting here now because of it? What's one thing in particular that stands out to you when you look back at, going from the financial industry into the music and now exploring into a wider entertainment and having this longevity? What's something that stands out as a redefining moment for you?
Well, shoot, my it's probably when I left the corporate because I never anticipated getting into music. I
Mm,
think I just have an entrepreneurial spirit that will take chances and just identify opportunities and just lock into the challenge. I
mm,
think that's maybe a common thread amongst just entrepreneurs in general, because when I got laid off in 2008, it wasn't like, hey, let me figure out how to start a label on my I didn't come up with that by myself. My brother was going to college and he wanted to drop out and start doing music. So it just so happened to coincide with a point in my life where I had the time to help. And then he
mm,
had a friend of his that was equally as frustrated, but already signed to a label, and they wanted to get together and form a label. So I was just like, all right, let me see what this is about. And that's how I got stuck in this space. So, fast forward, over a decade later,
right.
13 years, that's how I got stuck in entertainment. So it was never, I didn't go to business school. There's
Mhm.
not that many people that go to Stanford Business School to start
Right.
dealing with artists. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I think, I think you just got to go with the flow sometimes. And,
Yeah.
when you see an opportunity, latch onto it and just be dedicated to figuring it out. So I feel like that's my skill, for better or for worse.
Yeah. That's amazing. I
um,
love that. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think just seeing, you don't have to have it. We're not trying to be psychics here.
mm,
And it's not about predicting exactly where you're going to be. It's just about being open to the opportunity. And believing you can make something of it,
Yeah.
and finding out. It's,
Yep, and it doesn't all have to be like I'm still very analytical, right? So
mm-hmm.
as we were pursuing music, I mean it's great now that we have these metrics where we can, see our growth, right? Cuz we
Mm-hmm.
always when I as soon as I started working with my brother in Hobson, like I would be into the data and see, how our views were trending upwards, how our followers are trending upwards. And there was just never a point where it stopped. So I knew that at some point we would break down certain barriers and just let our fan base unlock certain doors. So it wasn't like a situation where, man, I hope this works one day. I hope this works one day, and then boom, it worked. It was like, no, I was following the trajectory because if our numbers were standing still and I was still 2-3 years into this, I would have been like, I might have jumped ship, or told my brother like, hey, this isn't working out. But I saw the trajectory.
Right.
I saw it day by day, and not just in the numbers, it was in the type of comments that we saw
Mm.
too. It was like, man, these guys are my favorite. I love these guys. Do you
Mm.
guys need any help? Like our
Wow.
fans were offering to help. Like
Yeah.
that, in addition to the metrics, it was the type of support we were getting, the type of love. So I knew at some point, something special was going to happen.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think it gets overlooked so much that, all you really truly need in the beginning is a small but mighty audience. And if you focus just on the numbers, you miss out on so much, like those comments that you were mentioning. And sometimes on your hardest day, you just need those comments to be like, okay, this is worth it. We got something here. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. And I encourage artists to create opportunities to mobilize that
Mm.
initial fan base because they're super passionate. They want to be part of your success. I remember it was a fan that essentially booked our first Australia tour.
Wow.
It wasn't a promoter. It was a fan who was a butcher by trade who turned into a promoter to bring us out, right? And then then we also did things like, in the early days, we would sell our CDs wholesale to our fans, and our fans would then turn around and sell them to their community, right? So we would sell them for just like $2. So we would make $1 on every CD, and our fans would then turn around and sell them for 5 or 10, and they would make $3 or $8. So it was an opportunity to create like a win-win for us. Like they were spreading the word about the music. We were making $1 on a CD, and they were maybe paying their phone bill with it.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I think just creating those opportunities to build community, because it's all about community. If you're successful in building community, you can have a very long career in the music industry, or whatever your product is. If you build
Mhm.
community, you're probably going to be around for some time.
I couldn't agree more. And I do hope, I know you have a lot on your plate, but I do hope one day you write a book about the butcher who booked our tour. I mean,
Oh.
that the title just sells itself. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
no, a lot of wild experiences running an independent record label.
yeah,
But even though it didn't end in the best way possible, it should have still existed to this day.
yeah,
It equipped me with a lot of skills going forward,
yeah,
for my next ventures. So
yeah. Well, I have no doubt that those next ventures are gonna, explode to the level that you decide they explode to. Because,
thank you.
as
Thank you.
just like anything, what we allow ourselves to do and believe we're capable of, happens, because you certainly have the hustle to back it up, and a healthy hustle at that. So I thank you so much for sharing your words of inspiration and truth with our audience. And I just really thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
Awesome. Take care.
All right, you too.
I told you, right? I hope you took notes. I want to thank Dane for taking the time out of his packed schedule to speak with all of us today, and I highly recommend you get on the MEC train. My challenge for you this week is to make it a point to pop into their next live session to learn, ask questions, and most importantly, build community among your fellow creatives. Afraid you'll miss it? All you have to do is text MEC to 844-206-7800 and be reminded before they go live. I can't get more simple than that. Now, attending conferences is also another great way to build community, so I hope you get a chance to attend the CD Baby DIY Musician Conference this August 26th to the 28th. It is jam-packed with some incredible talent, and I am thrilled to have yet another chance to host my very own workshop on the last day of the conference. It's going to be really special, so grab your ticket now. Head to bit.ly/CDBabySuze. The link is in the show notes below, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you back here next week for another episode of the Redefine the Hustle podcast. Take care.